Now, of course, yesterday, we and everybody across the internet was talking ad nauseum about the new HBO series, The Last of Us, which was absolutely phenomenal. Now, the last time I checked, and Taylor, you can maybe double check this. The last time I checked, it was at 98% on Rotten Tomatoes with a 95% audience rating. So, which is just incredible numbers across the board. The show was amazing and fantastic. And you know, somebody had asked me, how big do you think this show could be? And I said, well, you know, it's a hard one to peg because it is a video game property, a very popular video game property, but, you know, not as well known as, say, Game of Thrones, right? So how big would it be? And unlike, say, Euphoria, which is now in multiple seasons, was building momentum, winning awards, this was its first season coming out of the gate. How would it do? Well, according to Deadline, it do well. Deadline is reporting now that The Last of Us, and we can bring this up there, Jonathan, has become HBO's second largest debuts after The House of Dragon in 13 years with 4.7 million views. Now, to put this in context, the third biggest season debut was Euphoria season 2 debut, which had 2.4. Now, obviously, and trailing far behind House of the Dragon, which is, of course, a legacy series building upon the most popular pop culturally influential television show maybe of all time in that. But it looks like this thing came out of the gate strong. I have to admit, as much as I loved the show, totally enraptured with it, you had the showrunner from Chernobyl on there, the cast is immaculate. I was not expecting the first episode's numbers to be this good. The scary thing for me now is, how big can it be? Like once word of mouth, because the word of mouth is going to be good. Did we get those numbers, Taylor?
Yeah, it has a 99% tomato meter and a 96% audience
score. So they've gone up 99 and 96 from 98 and 95. So now you're going to start to get that effect of, okay, word of mouth is going to go now. And people who didn't check it out are going to hear from their annoying workmates, oh my God, you got to see this show. And it's going to, and where the numbers this thing's going to have by the time we get to episode 5, I don't know. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Rocket Money. Do you know how much your subscriptions cost? Most Americans think they spend around $80 a month on subscriptions, when the actual total is closer to $200. If you don't know exactly how much you're spending every month, you need Rocket Money. When I started using Rocket Money, I couldn't believe how many things I was still paying for. Anna and I haven't lived in Burbank for almost 2 years, and I didn't realize I was still paying for a gym membership in Burbank for 2 years. Rocket Money, formerly known as Truebill, is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills, all in one place. Over 80% of people have subscriptions that they've forgotten about, like that streaming service you bought to watch just one show on, or that free trial that you never even used, or like me, a gym membership in Burbank. Simply find the subscriptions you don't want and press cancel, and Rocket Money will cancel it for you. So stop throwing your money away. Cancel unwanted subscriptions and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/Campea. That's rocketmoney.com/Campea. Anyway, Christian, you see these numbers, what stands out to you?
Oh, a lot. I think that, you know, obviously it shows how big the video game industry really is. That's part one. With the amount of fans and how hardcore the fans are, you know, you're going to get, if you do it right, and they feel it's faithful, they're going to show up, right? And I had mentioned this, you had mentioned this. I said it's one of the most faithful adaptations, and everybody started throwing out like Arcane, which I loved, right? Castlevania. But the thing is, those are not stories that were really adapted. They're characters that were taken from like League of Legends and stuff too. There was not like a specific story that was taken. There hasn't been a lot of, I mean, even people are like, well, Pokemon. Well, Pokemon was taken. The characters were taken. And this is something
way better than Pokemon.
Yeah, but the point is that, you know, the adaptation of the actual story, and can you keep it true to the video game hardcore fan and expand on stuff where they're not pissed off about it changing it, and they scratched the back of those people, and they were, because look at what they did with Halo. Halo, they just said, oh, the Master Chief's there, but everything else has changed. They're like, no, we want to see how the Covenant and all that stuff happened. And I felt they dropped the ball tremendously on that show. But this was something, and the big reason that it's also doing well is because the word of mouth from critics, they sent the whole season to critics, by the way. They sent the whole entire season.
Yeah, they did.
That means extreme confidence. They're not worried about a lot of the spoilers getting out and all that. And even if they do, it's going to bring more word of mouth. But this is the test for me, is my wife bails on everything when it comes to shows. And she's not a zombie post-apocalyptic type, and I sat her down to watch it with me. She watched it all the way through, and she was engaged in it because of the story and the characters, and and to me, if you can hook a casual fan like that, that's why it's got that number, because casual fans who don't know about the game, who sit down just to watch a good story, they're going to get that. And there's emotional beats, there's stuff that happens right up top that I thought just played really well, and it's got the makings of a show that's going to last for a while.
Aaron, you saw these numbers, how big this show is. Were you surprised to hear, like, how, considering all the stuff HBO has had on in the last 13 years? I mean, this is incredible. What did you think about it?
It's not a surprise at all. Well, first of all, I want to speak totally to what Christian just said. I have never played the game. If I weren't on this show, I wouldn't even know that it was a game. I know nothing about the video game industry, as many of our viewers can attest to. And I will say that, but I am a big fan of anything having to do with zombies. I have a family plan for what happens in the case of a zombie apocalypse. Tom's not a big fan of it because it means that I just basically eat my entire family so that we all die together. We're not trying to be heroes, but I can respect.
Not gonna be heroes.
I am not a hero.
Just for one day?
Huh?
Oh God!
Immediately, literally, the second
tape?
that I hear about zombies, I'm putting on a tank top, I'm running outside, exposing myself, then going straight back in and biting Tom, then the baby, then Joey Bishop and the cats in that order, and we all die together happily ever
That
after.
sounds as bad as The Fog.
Oh, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. I hope it happens. Anyway, back to the show. This show was phenomenal for someone who is the casual television viewer, but also loves a good zombie movie. Train to Busan is one of my favorites. I loved We All Die. We All Die Here. What was the Korean
the
all
Korean
of us
one.
are Koreans.
We're all going to die.
We're all going to die. Yes, I loved that. And you're absolutely right with the story hooking you right from the beginning. We're emotionally invested, and the way that plays out, obviously no spoilers, but the way that plays out when we see what he does later on in the episode and his reaction, we all know exactly where that comes from. And to see the young girl's reaction as a direct conflict with his daughter's reaction to a similar situation was fascinating. When there is an accident behind the car, and you all know what I'm talking about, my jaw dropped. And
Yes, and freaked out at that.
I was riveted. And when you've seen Korean zombie movies and Korean zombie shows, it's really hard to be shocked by anything. I thought this was so beautifully done. Home run for Craig Mazin. I love Chernobyl, and I'm so happy to see that he followed it up with something just as powerful, if not more so. I'm really excited to see the rest of the season.
I can already see the people, because we heard a lot of it yesterday.
It's not zombies.
It's not zombies. It's, in fact, it's a zombie movie. You can
zombie.
call you can call it whatever you want, but essentially it's a zombie genre.
See, and we'll have it's probably a longer conversation. I actually agree with the chat on that one too. It's an infection as opposed to a zombie. I think that's what's so intriguing about it was the way that they explain it and the idea behind it. That's what one of the things that it's got to separate itself from something like The Walking Dead or Night of the Living Dead. I think that this infection idea is accurate, and we all got to get used to it.
We talked about the science of it, like, and the way they on the spoiler discussion, and it's amazing. It's great, but you get this infection, you get bit. You die, you come back as a flesh-craving thing to go and bite and kill other.
How is that not a zombie?
Movie.
By the way, I was really excited to see my old pal John Hannah from Spartacus as the doctor at the very beginning who was explaining the science.
He is awesome in that.
He was Body-Otis in Spartacus. I was like, what's up, John Hannah?
Who did you say? Somebody said, oh, that's the actor from
Mummy.
And he was also in The Mummy.
Sliding Doors.
And
in Supernatural, too. One of the actors.
Oh, you talking about Big Head from Silicon Valley?
No. Talking about the guy from Spartacus. But somebody on the show yesterday said, "Oh, he's from this." I said, "No.
Spartacus, yeah.
He's from Spartacus."
That was him.
Anyway, Rob, you see these kinds of numbers. I mean, nobody should have expected that it would come in anywhere near House of the Dragon, considering that's coming off with one of the most popular television series of all time. But to be the number 2 thing in like 13 years, I don't know. What do you think it means?
Well, I think here's the thing. Like the game, the thing about The Last of Us that I found fascinating as a video game is the actual story and the relationship between Joel and Ellie were just as important as the gameplay. And it worked in tandem with each other, creating an experience that not a lot of gamers had, which is why people say this is one of the greatest storytelling video games ever. we have seen so many different variations on the zombie theme. And I think what's going to happen with this show is what happened with the game, in that amidst the fall of civilization and the apocalyptic infection that has taken over, and at its core, it's the story of a father and a daughter trying to make their way in the world and basically to save, well, themselves and humanity. So other than like The Walking Dead, which ended up wallowing in its nihilism, and this at its core is even though it's optimistic,
It's hopeful.
it is hopeful, and it's about love, and it's about familial bonds. And so this is going to reinvent, I think, the zombie genre. Let's face it, has become a little stale. We've seen a lot. Walking Dead went how many seasons? Fear the Walking Dead, World of the Walking Dead. How many and I love The Walking Dead. Dawn of the Dead is one of my favorite movies of all time, the original. And I think this movie is going to affect people the same way that the game did. And I think an audience that is not gamers that have been watching all these zombie things are going to see something new that they haven't seen in other zombie entertainments.
All right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Incredible debut numbers for The Last of Us. It can only go up from here. Whatever you guys are thinking about it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.